Hi everybody, welcome to my face in a video. It's been a long time since I've felt really energized and inspired to share a video to my Facebook. I'm making this with the intention to share it on my Facebook because this video is kind of like a longer format, text post. It's easier for me to express my ideas and sentiments in a video. So I probably will share this on YouTube and then link it to Facebook. Anyway, a little bit of background. I've always loved sharing vulnerably on the internet. I consider YouTube, Instagram, Facebook kind of like an open journal. Here comes the queen. And a lot of the time, I would feel very motivated and fueled to share more and more in response to people's positive feedback. The reason that I share so openly, which some people might be uncomfortable with, some people might think it's oversharing, and I'm sure that people have judged me for it, and I felt really self-conscious many times throughout the waves of just continuing to show up over and over and over. But for years, I've, pretty much been committed to like sharing very personally. The reason being that it's necessary. I am in tune with my inner world and my emotions and my body, and pattern recognition is one of my passions. Because intuition, pattern recognition is one of the things at the core of intuition. And I'm built that way. I love it. It serves people. And it's useful to understanding and feeling more connected to your own experience. And also, when we are, in my experience, my understanding as people, when we are flourishing and thriving, one of the ingredients to create the flourishing and thriving is, connectivity and intimacy and vulnerability in a social context. And that's something that is pretty stunted, I think, in the United States in general. Like our culture, especially from the lens of social media, our culture is very, disconnected. And a lot of the things that make us human are not publicly, openly, widely acknowledged. There are so many stereotypes, assumptions, judgments, voices, agendas, propaganda. There's so much noise in the world that creates this shadow of shame or wrongness or insecurity, judgment, whatever, around very real and very common human experiences. And so I'm making this video inspired by one of the best conversations that I've ever had. And I've had many best conversations, and this is one of them. It was like a 2-hour conversation with an old friend / acquaintance who I actually worked with years ago when I used to live in Florida. And as you know, whether you're my friend or you are connected with me on the internet, you see a lot of details about my personal life, including my health struggles. So I shared a bit about my, some health flare-ups that I was going through. And she reached out to me and wanted to share her journey and whatnot. And so that's not mine to repeat to anyone ever without her blatant consent and asking me to do that. So I'm not here to do that. But so we had that conversation, and we shared a lot about our own health journeys and our own healing journeys. And I mean, 2 hours, like we went deep. It was a great conversation, and she had to go. she had to go to another appointment. So I'm sure we would have talked longer, but there was so much to just that we shared that came up. So yeah, and one of the things that inspired me to make this video, just do not disturb my phone. One of the things that inspired me to make this video was how deeply validating our conversation was, and how much kinship I felt with this person on the phone, and how powerful the phenomenon of connection is. That is a very generic statement, but and it kind of brings me back to the reason why I share in the first place at all. Why am I so open? Why do some people think what I'm doing is cringy? Why do I open up my soul and my heart and my personal life on the internet? Why do I do that? And I do it because of what I was saying before. I think that this transparency around the particular issues or experiences, the human experiences that are not commonly acknowledged, especially by institutions in my Western world, in the United States. I share my experiences because I'm blessed, lucky, grateful that I've been able to free myself from needing to really depend on a lot of the societal structures that perpetuate these false ideas, these disconnecting ideas about who we are and what we need, and money and career and all this stuff. It's none of that is I'm not surviving, so I am free from a lot of things that a lot of people in my society are not free from, and it's a blessing, and I feel like it's a responsibility that I take very seriously. And the way that I try to honor my privilege and my gifts and the things that I've been given by God is to share them, and to share them with people with the hope that I can bridge gaps and make people feel validated and empowered and less alone and more free. I have a blessing that I'm able to share so much personal information online, and I don't need to worry about an image. I don't need to worry about a reputation. I can afford to be judged by people. I can afford to be self-conscious. It's a blessing. And nobody really wants to feel insecure or self-conscious per se. No one necessarily wants to be judged. But the thing about speaking the truth and being transparent and being seen is that the more in the light you are, the more different opinions about you are going to just blow up and become more obvious and more in your face or whatever. And the more love and support you'll feel, and also the more projection you will, open yourself up to. And it's an honor for me to be able to have the privilege to share my vulnerability, because when I was talking on the phone with this friend, she was telling me how a lot of the I've got someone mowing the lawn right outside the window. She was telling me how the things that I've shared, the vulnerabilities, the parts of my journey have helped to, okay, hold on a second, I can't do this. Okay, so both the front of the house and the back of the house have, landscaping noises going on. So we're gonna try to get through this together. So anyway, what I was saying, what was I saying? We were talking on the phone, and she was giving me just the most wonderful, inspiring feedback that really ticked my inner fire off. and inspired me to step forward even more with more energy, to share this. It's so meaningful to me, and I hope that I can get across what I want to say, what I feel in words, because there's so much. But basically what I'm here to do right now is to open up about things that I don't necessarily hear many people opening up about. This is absurd. Okay, hold on. Okay, they're farther away now, so it should be better. But basically what I was saying is this friend was giving me the most beautiful encouragement, feedback, validation, just appreciating, the journey that I've shared so far. And so that's one message that I just want to say. It's like, never underestimate, even if no one, come here, honey. Even if no one is necessarily there to validate you or give you the feedback or affirm your purpose, it's like, may you have the wherewithal, the energy to honor the calling of your soul and honor sharing your unique gifts and your unique voice, because you truly, I don't even think it's possible to fathom the overarching effect and impact that your existence has. So be encouraged, like, be who you are, let yourself shine, let yourself be seen, even if the affirmation is not always coming back to you. I will say, in my years of sharing openly like this online, I already said this, but I've had many, many, many moments of self-consciousness where I feel so insecure, I feel so small, and I feel so uncomfortable. And in the recent, week or 2 or 3, like I was going through a very, very much like a low point in that journey. And, I continue to share, and, I do tarot readings, I do intuitive readings. Like, my intuition, my psychic abilities, my sensitivity, my pattern recognition, those things are all my passion and my gifts. I am really good at feeling. I'm really good at feeling feelings. And I don't know, that might sound kind of funny, and it does sound kind of funny, but it's the truth. And I've been able to help people a lot because of it. And so I've been sharing, readings and whatnot. I do like general collective energy tarot readings. And if, even if what I'm doing is not valid or doesn't make sense for skeptical people, it's like, okay, it doesn't need to click with everyone. But that's one of the things that I've kind of been struggling with recently, is feeling like I'm fighting with there's a part of myself that needs the validation that my readings are valid and that they're helpful or whatever. But it's like, I've had enough experience in general to trust that I don't feel I don't feel the callings that I feel in vain, even if I don't get the external validation or reflection. It's like, my roots, my connection, my support is in God first and foremost. My intuition, my relationship with the unseen spiritual realms, and that's what I use to inform my decisions. That's what I use to motivate me. And it's a never-ending stream, a never-ending supply. So even during times, even in bouts where I feel my human insecurities are like crushing me a little bit, I can turn to God, and I can receive my guidance, and I can be free, and I can feel peace, and I can be happy, and I can be okay. And that's not something that I like talk about a lot. I live it, and it's how I refuel my mental, emotional strength when I feel vulnerable, when I feel insecure, when I feel weak, when I feel lost, when I feel disconnected from my purpose. So there's that. And this is kind of, I'm starting to jump around a little bit, I feel, but there were a couple of things that I wanted to talk about specifically in this video now that I've like prefaced what this is about and why I'm talking, why I'm here. Specifically, there are experiences and things that I go through, and I know I'm not alone, but I don't really talk about those things with many people. But when I was on the phone with this person, we talked about all these things. And I was reminded how necessary it is to have communities of people who are acknowledging their shared experiences, whatever it is. That's why we have support groups. That's why we have book clubs. That's why we have dinner parties. That's why whatever. We need, as humans, we're social, interdependent creatures. Come here, honey. Come here. Come here. And we need to feel a sense of connection in order to thrive, in order to experience well-being. And, so I just wanted to talk about the things that I experience, because I know I'm not the only one. And it's scary because, obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I am afraid of being judged. I always feel a little bit of self-consciousness. I always feel afraid that I'm going to be judged, but I don't let it stop me from sharing what I feel called to share and what feels purposeful and meaningful to be open about. But yeah, one of those things is about my health, and I've already shared a lot about my health. But the main thing that I kind of wanted to talk about, again, I feel kind of disorganized. I'm just like going off the top of my head here. But yeah, the main thing I wanted to talk about is in relation to spirituality, sensitivity, psychic and intuitive sensitivity, and those kinds of experiences. So let's see. So I've shared a lot about my psychic and intuitive journey and experiences, and it's something that I can teach. It's something that I'm developing. I'm working on a way to bring this knowledge out and like offer it and share it. This man is blowing earth debris off of my front patio, and it's so invasive. So invasive. When your whole house is screaming and you can't go anywhere for peace. It's like the opposite of what I want in a house. I'm at my mom's house right now. I'm in Florida, and this is kind of like a hermit nest shell egg of a place where I can like just recoup and be in hermit mode. And after all of the health issues and stuff that I went through, the flare-ups I went through when I was in Africa and Benin, I've pretty much literally only had bandwidth for my own world, my own self. I've been through so many offenses to my nervous system and different systems in my body, that I genuinely, I'm feeling so sensitive right now. I'm already sensitive, but the load of what I've taken on is more than I even have space right now to process. So being in Florida is like a place for me to hibernate. And it's also the middle of winter, which is a time to hibernate anyway. And yeah, okay, so that's that. And then with the psychic stuff, I wanted to just kind of like open this up. Like I've been wanting and praying, desiring to connect with a community of people. And so I feel like because of this, I want to, come up with some kind of like virtual or in person, depending on who's interested and where they live, meeting or meetup where we can gather and share these particular experiences, just so that we feel affirmed in our abilities, in our nature, in who we are, and we have a space to share and to feel seen and to feel heard and to share our story and empower other people who go through similar things that we do, especially when those particular things are not really commonly accessible. Like what I'm trying to bring here right now is something that I don't see that exists, which is like a psychic intuitive support group. I'm sure it does exist. And I would be maybe not so surprised if someone commented on this and they saw it and they shared about some kind of group where that's a thing where psychic and intuitives gather and, you know, share stories and share support. And I used to host women's circles. I used to go to women's circles, and that was one thing that really anchored me in my existence, like that social communal support, where we share core values, core experiences. It's such a necessary part of maintaining a sense of thriving as a human being. And when I lived in New York, I went to these enchanted ecology groups, which is what my friend called them. And he was a professor of mysticism, religion, and animism at Hunter College in New York City. And he hosted these kind of group powwow conversations with, you know, about the intersection between spirituality and ecology. And we had the most stimulating conversations out of like anyone that I talked to. And we also were the most gremlin-esque with one another. We could be ridiculous and communicate without words, and, you know, just it was magical and whimsical and perfect and fulfilling. And we would do adventures together, and we would talk in our groups together. We would cry together, and it was just so perfect and wonderful. You know, and here in Florida, and especially now in my life, like I don't really have that same sense of community because I am traveling at the moment. And so it's kind of a payoff, like, you know, but people are so adaptable. So one thing that I can do, that I'm trying to do through the video and through my eventual, you know, virtual or in-person meetup, where we can talk about these things and share these things. My goal with that is to create, you know, a sense of belonging, a sense of community. And, you know, it's said that there's like a saying, I could be butchering it, and I don't know who said it, but the idea is create the event that you want to go to. So if no one is talking about what you want to talk about, if no one's doing what you want to do, then make the space and invite people to join you. And I will acknowledge that it can be very vulnerable to do that, because if you don't see it happening around you, how do you know what people will think? How do you know how people will react? You won't, but for the most part, people who are loving and supporting of you are gonna be happy for you, that you are branching out and creating something that fulfills you, and especially if it serves other people as well, that's amazing. And it's powerful to share our gifts and our interests, whatever. So yeah, I want this to be encouraging to you. Like if you have a specific story or an experience, everyone has their own story. Everybody has something that's important for at least one person on this planet. And I want to encourage sharing, because we're so much more interconnected than we think. And again, our impact is literally unfathomable. And the power, energetically and directly, physically, of sharing our experiences and our stories from our souls is life-changing. I mean, I would not be sitting here making this video if this woman didn't reach out to me to share her journey. And she wouldn't have reached out to me if I wasn't sharing my journey. You know what I mean? We need to be open and create connection in order to heal, to thrive, to feel good. And I just want to be encouraging. Like I'm okay with being a fool or a freak or weird or judged because, or, having interests or having, facts or aspects about myself that are unique or different or unusual, and being transparent about them, because I am one of a group of people on this planet. You know what I mean? And even if the people who are, it's like, imagine, I'm a very visual thinker, so this is kind of what I'm imagining. It's like, imagine you have a story, and that story is like an orb that lives inside of you. And when you speak, you shoot that orb out. It physically goes in front of you, and that's your story. And sometimes in order to connect, and in order for the magical light of your story to go into somebody else's body and light up their body, in order for that to happen, the story, a literal orb of light, needs to pass through layers of naysayers or judgment or people who it's not for. But that story has a power. It has a power. And when you free that story, sorry, I think I just spit. Yeah, when you free that story, it has this power to find someone who needs it. And stories are like lights. Stories are like glasses. They're like perceptions, perspectives, frameworks that when you apply them, when you ingest them, when you receive a story, you look at your universe, your world, your internal landscape through the lens of that story, and you can perceive literally a new reality, a specific reality. And that is a prayer. Prayer is feeling what we feel, what we vibrationally, emotionally hang out in, the energy that we sit in. That is a prayer. So it only makes sense that we should lead with desire, joy, happiness, authenticity, the light of who we are, of what we are, So that's why I'm saying, I just want to encourage you, share your story, because your story is literal light. Your story is your unique tapestry of perception that has given you your experience, that made your story worth telling. So imagine if telling your story again and again could help that beautiful experience, it does those things sometimes. I think it was I thought I was, making a heart. That's so sweet. Your story is a literal light. So when you share it and you release it into the world, like, God takes care of the rest. God puts us in uncanny situations all the time and is a master at making things happen. So if you feel something true in your heart and you want that connection, and you think about someone else who's maybe in the dark or in silence, or they aren't safe enough to have a voice, because sometimes expressing your voice comes with a consequence of pain or fear, or it even confronts you with your need to survive. Like, it's insane and tragic what happens in our world right now. There are people being held against their will. There are people being abused. There are people whose physical well-being and emotional well-being is directly threatened by their own birthright, their own freedom. So if I can be woo-woo on the internet for the sake of someone else who is suffering in silence, to find this message and feel like they have a friend, or feel like someone that they don't even know is going through something similar, then I can create comfort. And I think one of the things about that needs to change in our world in order to create more of this connection and freedom, if we want to help people, this is how I try to help people. We need to learn to channel our ego energy appropriately. So we all have egos, and the ego is not a bad thing. I hate when people try to, say that the ego is a bad thing. The ego is literally a chain, an anchor, a connection between the physical body and the spirit, because the ego is what creates our preconceptions, our concepts, our frameworks for reality. And if we didn't have a set of beliefs, a set of frameworks, preferences, likes, dislikes, aversions, cravings, all that stuff, that comes from the ego, that's formulated by the ego. And it's an intelligence, a divine intelligence that is meant to serve our bodies and our minds. It's meant to keep us safe in a society. It's meant to keep us connected and unified with the world around us. It's meant to help us adapt. That's the beauty of the ego. The ego is not a bad thing. What's bad is this lack of empowerment that I think our entire culture has when it comes to learning how to manage the ego. Because a lot of people, are afraid to just speak the truth. And once upon a time, it was dangerous. Once upon a time, if you told the truth, you would die. You would get killed. You would get burned. You would get shot. If you were a witch, if you were Galileo, I always think of him. He observed the cosmos and measured them, quantified them, and he was killed because people couldn't wrap their minds around it. It's fear. And that was the ego doing a crazy thing and saying, you, Galileo, are too far removed from our framework, from our framework of reality for us to feel safe integrating you and accepting your ideas that are so far out. They would challenge everything that we believe. They would challenge our beliefs, our faith, our understanding of the world. We would be so uprooted. We would have this crazy identity crisis. That's why people kill people. That's why wars exist. That's my observation. That's my opinion. I know there's complex politics and social stuff, but none of that makes any sense to me, because the way I see it is it all comes back to our own biology, our own physiology, our own trauma. And that's kind of a separate tangent, but anyway, it's intense stuff. It's heavy stuff. So I'm just going to jump to what I was talking about before. And one of the particular things that I wanted to share about, that I experience, that I go through, that I don't really talk with a lot of people about, but it is one of the most important things in my life. It's one of the most prominent things in my life. And again, it's that thing is my relationship with my psychic and intuitive abilities, and the patterns that I've observed, and the signs and synchronicities, all that whole realm. I am very connected with my intuition, and I love observing patterns, like I was saying. And there's just so much about that whole world that I love, and I want to just kind of open things up. I want people to feel encouraged to talk about what they observe, what they experience. I want people to learn language, to be able to communicate their experiences without necessarily... I know you can't control whether or not someone invalidates you or writes you off, but I know in the neo-spiritual world, which is a huge umbrella, there are certain hot words, certain buzzwords, keywords, or buzz things. There's aspects in spiritual culture, different spiritual cultures, especially neo-spirituality, Western watered-down spirituality, which is pretty much a convergence of a spiritually diasporic culture who is creating new ways of connecting with God, source, spirit, because of the consequence of being cut off from their own ancestry, their own culture. Our ancestors experienced genocide. I have ancestry from Asia, Europe, America, Native American culture, Russia, all over the world, Judaism, and I will say Judaism. When I say Judaism, I had a really powerful conversation with someone, and he clarified for me that Judaism is not exclusive to blood, although there were a lot of Jews who lived in specific areas of the earth, and maybe this so in that sense, saying, okay, I'm just going to stop myself because I can't take the time to put this into words. But anyway, when I say Judaism, I want to be inclusive, and I don't want to limit my idea of that to a particular blood, because that's not Judaism. But my Jewish ancestors who survived the Holocaust, whatever, Native American ancestors who went through genocide, being wiped away. I mean, I'm Abenaki, which is one of the 5 Algonquin tribes, and the Abenaki tribe, I don't know what the status of it is now, but when I learned about it in 2021, I traveled a bunch. I was in Vermont. I went to the Algonquin Museum, and I learned about it. And at the museum, the Abenaki tribe was the only tribe that wasn't represented because of genocide, and it was a whole culture that was silenced and wiped out. And I still did meet people who were breathing life into the culture, which is beautiful, powerful, and I love it. And I'm so grateful that that's happening. And it, and this is kind of parallel to, again, the whole reason why I'm making this video. There are so many aspects of being human, of our human culture. There are different levels of culture. There's like human culture, right? Like humans all have joy in common. We all have laughter in common. We all have love in common. And then subcultures of the human family have different things in common, whether that's physical attributes or behaviors or rituals or beliefs, etc. And just in the same way that cultures from my ancestry, maybe from your ancestry as well, were wiped off the records, obliterated, destroyed, disbanded. Even today, it's happening. It's happening today, all over. But just like how that's a thing and how it's important to preserve culture and stay connected to our roots and whatnot, it's also important to stay connected to the unique experiences that transcend the physical world, that make us who we are. And I'm really passionate about that. That's really important to me. And, I've shared many psychic intuitive experiences and stories that I've been through in the past, but I guess, where I'll leave this video off is I'm kind of putting out my feelers, putting out my radar, wanting to connect with people who want to talk about these things, who resonate with what I'm saying, who want to tell their stories. Let me know who you are, and let's talk and let's connect, and let's, I want to invite you to come be a part of the group that I want to start, because I just want a place to talk about these spiritual experiences that make us who we are. And let's see, I wonder if there's any specific examples I can use. Just the overarching idea of like the type of connection that I want to make and the type of people that I want to talk to are people who really have any kind of experience around subtle awareness or intuition or the psychic realm. People who lead their life with those things, people who care about those things, people who want to learn about those things, people who want a space to talk about and express their experiences in those realms. So that's my specific kind of desire. But I know that, I'm so open to, if anyone is still watching this, thank you for being here. And if you have specific ideas or desires, or something that I said inspired something parallel in your mind to what I've been saying, it doesn't have to be related to psychic intuitive abilities. It could be related to any aspect of life. I'm curious to hear what came up for you and what you want to talk about. I just want to connect. I'm just one person. I have a limited perspective. I have a set of beliefs and ideas. I have my own desires, and I wanted to just reveal those so that people could participate in them and bring their own magic as well, because there are things that I can't even fathom about what you have to offer and what you can share and how you can contribute. So even if you have a different experience, even if you're agnostic, you don't go around the G word, God, but for somehow you want to connect. There's some idea that you have, some whatever. Like I want to, I don't know, just it's connection, sharing magic, empowerment, vulnerability. Those are all things that I'm about. So I'm just going to leave this here. Thanks for coming to my impromptu podcast. Okay. Yeah. Okay.